This is obviously a slightly weird one for me. Mo Salah is one of Liverpool's all-time great strikers, wingers, whatever you want to categorise him as. He is one of the all-time greats in those positions. And yet, there are still so many people who manage to question Mo Salah and at the same time praise Mo Salah, because a lot of that greatness has just become normal, or a lot of that output has become normal, and things that we as Liverpool fans see as greatness may not seem all that great to other people, because not everyone values Mo Salah in the way that we value Mo Salah, and not everyone understands the emotional connection that we get with a player when players do well for us. In the same way as loads of other people I don't understand why people love certain Man City players or certain Manchester United players. And I want to kind of talk about that, because obviously there was a PFA Team of the Year. Salah, I would say, is definitely going to be one of the at least running mates for Player of the Year this season, and I think there's many reasons why. But there are also many other reasons as to why this will also be a stellar Mo Salah season, if not one of the best, if not the best Mo Salah season, though some people may argue that. And there are also reasons why this may be his last season in the Premier League. Welcome back to Laurence McKenna channel. There is a lot to talk about. I want to break down some of this. First of all, he wasn't in that PFA Team of the Year. There were some very good nominees, candidates, whatever you want to call it, in that team ahead of him. And there were certainly some compelling numbers put out there by many different teams this year. Virgil van Dijk obviously made it in there, and I think that is a warrant. Like he warranted that. He's certainly a fantastic player. But at the same time, why not then shout Mo Salah? Ollie Watkins, who got a massive shout this year, got 19 goals, 13 assists. Mo Salah, who I think is a relatively selfless player, who is a player who clearly proved that he can up his game yet again in a brand new system, who isn't yet over the hill, who is someone who very much has tactical and team input and, obviously leadership input, only got 18 goals and 10 assists. And there was a lot more of those expected goals, although you can't judge a player on expected goals. If they underscore their expected goals, you obviously can't put them into that Team of the Year for that reason. But you get my point here. And obviously Arsenal dominated. Arsenal were a fantastic team last year. I think reflecting that a lot of people enjoyed their performances. Raya got into there. Was Raya necessarily the best goalkeeper of the year last year? Not necessarily. Do you know what I mean? But then there were other people, and maybe he was just because he was in net more consistently than other people. Declan Rice, a world-class player, yes. Kind of on the Mo Salah area, but maybe because he was in the best team, he gets to that shout. Liverpool still relatively close to all of that. Only finished, roughly 10 points off the top of the league. Is that all that different to where Arsenal were? Maybe Arsenal were pushing City marginally longer, and maybe the add up of those things. But you get what I'm saying here. I think narrative goes along a lot with this, and so narrative is a big thing with Mo Salah. I think this year he's obviously going to get a shout for it. I think there are big reasons why. First of all, you could see from the opening day of the season, and it's not only him, but there are a couple of seasons now where we've seen Mo Salah playing a couple of varied roles. Once that worked, he looks incredible. In that long run season, I think he certainly looked like he was burning himself out in that time, and you can understand why. But then in the next season, he looked as if he was almost completely, not disinterested, but just disconnected from the side. Didn't look like he was part of that makeup of the Liverpool team. And there were times where he looked so isolated that people were kind of wondering, what is it that Mo Salah is actually contributing that feels as meaningful as if someone else was out there? Obviously, in a stupid fashion. But I think there was a point where he seemed a little ostracised out on the pitch. And then he came back into it under Klopp. I think he became, again, a lot more central to the plan. They kind of rejigged the front line. He is very good at building up a brilliant relationship with the striker alongside him. I think that comes from his being earlier on in the career when he had, a good relationship with whoever he was playing off the front at Basel, good relationship with whoever he was playing off the front at somewhere like Roma. Obviously then he got Bobby Firmino, but he also had a couple of other people alongside him. There were times where he was kind of interchanging, and obviously he always had Trent behind him, he always had Hendo behind him. There was that three which rotated so much, which gave him so much space, which were selfless runners, all those kind of things. That selfless runner has now turned into Dominic Szoboszlai. That passer is still Trent Alexander-Arnold, one of the best passers in the world, as we saw for the goal, the pass before the pass, for that goal for Diogo Jota on the weekend. And not only will that give Mo Salah more opportunities to assist this season, and I think we're going to see the assist narrative massively ramp up this season for people like Mo Salah, who will sit alongside a Jota, who potentially could have a 20-plus goal season. I'll be interested to see, obviously if they stay fit, that's going to play in a lot to what Mo Salah's narrative is. And then there's obviously how successful someone like Arne Slot is alongside Liverpool. But then you've also got the selfless running of someone like Dominic Szoboszlai. And don't forget the other pass before the pass of Virgil van Dijk. A player who I think a lot of people, again, I'll do another whole video on him, but a lot of people are questioning, a lot of people are saying, oh, you know, is he going to go after this last year of his contract? Is he going to still be a Liverpool leader? If Liverpool sign a left-sided centre-back, is that going to undermine his leadership? All these kind of things. This is going to concoct what I would describe as somewhat of a last dance mentality within the Liverpool team. There are going to be some players who will eventually leave this side, and of course, I'd love to see every ageing or sunset player in their career stay at Liverpool. And of course, I was also talking last season about whether a move to Saudi would be good for Liverpool and good for Salah. Those two things sometimes can cross over. And to talk about it doesn't mean you're advocating for it. But of course, £150 million is a lot of money. And knowing Liverpool's financial model and knowing where Liverpool want to take the team and knowing that Slot was coming in, all concocts a bit of a narrative. How selfless do Liverpool want to be with Mo Salah? How selfless does Mo Salah want to be for Liverpool? If Mo Salah leaves Liverpool on a free, I'm almost certain that that would be because Mo Salah was not offered a contract which would be worth buying him out of at Liverpool. He's not going to sign some long-term contract so that Liverpool can then make a load of money on the other side of him. Although, maybe he is, maybe there will be a gentleman's agreement. He very much seems like that kind of person. Liverpool have always seen him right. He will maybe see them right in the end. And so if someone does come along in the end and say, hey, we want Mo Salah, Liverpool will want to get some sort of money out of it. But of course, it'd be seen as a mess up from FSG if they don't sign him onto another contract. That is how people would perceive it. It would be very difficult to paint it any other way. But of course, that would also mean there was a player side issue there, and there would be a lot of other things that would need to contribute to that. I also think that part of the reason Mo Salah does not get the credit as a Liverpool player, and maybe even as a Liverpool legend, is because people, maybe rightly so, always saw the Jurgen Klopp system as more of a system and not one individual performing within that. Now, there are swings and roundabouts to that argument, right? Slot clearly values the individual brilliance and vision of someone like Mo Salah, but there may also be a time when, I mean, we've seen other people try and play that position. I actually think Jota, a couple of other people have kind of understudied for Salah quite well, not even trying to do an understudy type performance, not trying to do a Mo Salah-esque kind of impression, just trying to put their own spin on it. And I had this conversation with Grizz Khan and Neil Atkinson and Chris Pajak last night on the live stream. I mean, that was really fun to hear their perspectives. I think a lot of people were talking about the aggregate, making up the numbers, the shift of emphasis that maybe would go elsewhere in the team, the fact that Liverpool have let big players move on before, and some of those big players, it's good to move those people on because you don't always necessarily want to just sit around and have the same guys wait until the decline kicks in. But at the same time, there's sentiment. And at the same time, we want to see players that we love in the Liverpool shirt. And Mo Salah is definitely a player that Liverpool love. But I just wanted to talk about this a little bit. There has been also this, it was Fuad and I think it was Cams the other day. Was it Fuad and Cams? Yeah, it was a couple of guys, and they great guys, really good pundits. But they were talking about whether Mo Salah is a kind of not a big game player. I think the rewriting of the Mo Salah history is already happening. Mo Salah scored some incredible goals. He's also scored some clutch goals. He's also clutch. I know you hate the word. He's also scored some goals which make sense in big moments. I've been there for some of those absolutely ginormous moments from Mo Salah. Champions League moments. He's been great in the Champions League. A lot of people talking about, oh, well, the non-penalty goals, those kind of things in the Champions League. He scored great goals against City. He scored great goals against United. He's been a massive part of a team. People always look to the stats that they want to judge by rather than the overall team stats. And it's another reason why I think Mo Salah will go underestimated, is because in this era, as easy as it is, obviously, and very pleasing on the eye, to have players like Odegaard, I think he's an amazing player. Rice, I think he's an amazing player. The two centre-backs for Arsenal, incredible. Raya, a ball-playing, brilliant goalkeeper. The brilliant football of Arsenal, Martinelli, Saka, all those kind of things. Mo Salah will always go underjudged in any of these generations, because the system did get the best out of him. And I think when he came in, we have to revert back to that Mina Rizuki quote of, basically, hey, he could probably be a 10-goal-a-season striker. Yeah, I mean, possibly. But at the same time, he's very much dispelled that myth, or at least marginally. And I think part of the proof in the pudding with Mo Salah is that you have to watch him every game. You have to watch him week in, week out. You have to realise that when their best player put in a performance against someone like Mo, that's when they're acknowledged as a brilliant left-back or a brilliant centre-back. And those kind of things are really important. People can talk about aura, I'm sure that we will get into that conversation around Virgil van Dijk at some point. But what's interesting is, in this era when people are already rewriting people's legacy before they've even left the club, like Liverpool, very often it's because it's easier to be the naysayer, to go, oh, the GOAT deserves his, his flowers and whatever, but then also give while taking with the other hand. And believe me, I know about that. Like, I've seen that happen. Because it makes for big clicks. But is it accurate history writing? Is it? I get it, we can downplay Mo Salah's role. Salah was more than selfless in so many areas, in stretching the pitch, in trying to be an outlet for Liverpool, in making decoy runs, in being part of combination moves, in passing the ball off before the pass, in all these kind of different areas. He was the man that gets marked out of the game because he is so dangerous, because you have to put two people on him that create so much space for Bobby Firmino on the other side, or Mane on the other side, or Diaz on the other side. Or is he the man who, when he puts a through ball in, is he unlucky because he is the most lethal finisher in the team, obviously with Mane or whoever else. And that's also part of the point I want to make here. Can you just say that a team accolade is won alone when you look at Raya, Gabriel, Saliba, Odegaard, Rice? You'd argue that the team made those guys into much better players. And as much as people are going to be making arguments against Mo, I think there are plenty of other people who are going to be making arguments against other players as well. And I think, weirdly, Arsenal gets seen as a team of brilliant individuals because that is the narrative around Arsenal. And Liverpool gets seen as a brilliant team because that is the narrative around Klopp, Liverpool and Slot. And the micro spending, or the smaller spending that Liverpool do. So I think a lot gets taken away from Mo Salah, but I'm really looking forward to seeing him put in, inshallah he stays fit, do you know what I'm saying? So it's an interesting one when it comes down to Mo, but I wanted to get your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below, and I'd be really interesting to hear what you guys have to say. Would you be willing to let him go at the end of the season? Obviously not on a free. In what circumstances would you be willing to do that? And do you think it's a smart move to offer not only someone who's over 30, but someone who's over 30 in a really dangerous position, who maybe Liverpool would make up the numbers else, somehow the emphasis would shift, maybe a new player that comes in will be able to understand that system and do some of the passes and the moves and things that Mo Salah does, even though he is still very much a unicorn that Liverpool are looking to unicornize? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll chat to you again in a little while. We need Mo to have one of those big seasons, especially because right now we do not actually have anyone out there. It is a big 10 days in that transfer market to show A, what Mo's future is, but B, what Liverpool's future is. I'll chat to you guys in a little while. Let me know how you feel about it, and I'll see you in a bit. Much love. Bye.